I used to ride the streets of the world's busiest city, Tokyo, Japan, when I was a kid going to school. I see it's no different here in London. If you want community, hang around at rush hour. You'll be surrounded by the press of human life. We asked the people out on the streets what they thought the meaning of community really is. Listen to their responses.
It's not often happens today, does it, communities? People tend to keep to themselves a lot.
But I'm from China. A community to us is like not a party, but just like a family.
Our communities are all the people from all over the world.
Community would be something that you live in and the people that you're living with, really.
When I think community, I'm thinking togetherness. I'm thinking friends.
Well, different people from different religious beliefs is what I thought is community.
Like a brotherhood, helping each other, seeing everybody as equal, showing love to others.
Family, if you will, not necessarily by blood, but family, trust, people you love, community.
My name is Conchita Henry, and I live with my husband, Balford, and my daughter, Shada, who's 14, going on 40, and my son, Akil, who's just turned 12. I love sports. I love to watch it. Better still to do it, but I don't get much time. I do like to spend time alone, but I'm not really a loner. And so to me, fellowship with others is really, really important, particularly on something that I think is so essential to my life, which is spirituality. So to be able to meet with a group of people and discuss with them the things that are always going around in my head and the things that I sometimes have to talk with my children about, because they ask me a lot of questions about things to do with the spiritual life, is really important for me because it helps me to step back from my busy life and really engage with the bits of me that I think are really important to put right. And so I would really enjoy that time of reflection, to rethink what I believe and to modify it and to come up with something that I think will make me more satisfied and clearer and more content with myself, because that's what life's about, isn't it? Contentment and peace, and I think that would be really good.
We're calling the journey Mind the Gap. It's a journey of conversations in a small group setting right here. Conversations about big gaps in life. Gaps between reality and the way we experience life. And this gap today, I keep saying this, everyone seems to be a big one, but this one is huge for the 21st century, all right, 21st century. I'm gonna read a story straight out of Reuters news agency. Listen to this. This happened just a few weeks ago in the city where I was born. Dave, did you know that I was born in Tokyo, Japan? You did not know that, did you? I'm letting you know that now. This is Dateline Tokyo. The pajama-clad skeleton of a man, a Japanese man, has been found in a vacant apartment building. What's the big deal? Listen on. The skeleton was discovered lying atop musty futon. They have these, futons. All right. This bedding earlier this month when workers getting ready to raise, that means take it down, the derelict building, entered the second floor unit where the man had lived, domestic media reports said on Thursday. Police believe the man, an employee of the construction firm that built the apartments, moved in after the building was vacated when the firm managing it went bankrupt. The man, divorced and with children, suddenly stopped coming to work, but none of his relatives ever asked police to search for him. Now listen to this, guys. Listen to this. They found a newspaper on the kitchen table dated February 20, 1984. It just, you say it cannot be true. 20 years, the man has been missing, and his relatives never contacted the police saying, have you seen him? And the people at work didn't say, hey, where's Joe? Of course, that's not a Japanese name. Where is Joe? He hasn't come in for 20 years. I mean, you can't believe it. But guys, I share the story with you. It's such bizarre, so bizarre in its nature. I share it with you because it highlights the critical gap that we must contemplate today and get a conversation going on. And that's a gap of community. If that man had belonged to something, somebody would surely have said, Joe hasn't, it's been a week. Anybody seen Joe? But nobody misses him. 20 years and he's in his pajamas. What a sad, sad story.
Very sad.
The issue of community, however, and here comes the kind of the edge, the issue of community, however, when you mention it in the context of Christianity, also raises the issue of church. Oh my, church, community, and now here goes the bad news. And in fact, Althea, let's just cut to the chase. Let's be brave and put it on the screen of our minds, heard on the pavement. Hear this.
Just today, fresh in.
What people are saying about the church.
Well, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you have to go to church, does it? Don't like going to church.
Fair enough.
Why do I have to be part of a church? The other big question is that a lot of people think that the church is a little bit hypocritical. It's full of people who say one thing and do another. And history seems to show that there are fewer and fewer people going to church nowadays anyway.
You could probably make that point. Certainly in the West. Certainly in the West. Yeah.
And a group of people are asking, what is so special about church anyway? It's nice to be a part of a community, and most people think that that's kind of essential. But what's wrong with just belonging to my local community club, my women's institute, the health club, the sports club? What's wrong with that?
Okay.
Why do I have to be part of a church?
It's a fair question.
The other question, this is kind of a big issue, I think, for most of the people that we spoke to, is that they feel that churches tend to want to churn out people who are so alike. They look like each other, they talk like each other, they walk like each other, they wear the same kind of clothes as each other, you know, a little bit clone-like. And really, they don't want to be that
Who wants to be a part of
similar.
something where it's cookie cutter, everybody same.
Absolutely. And you know, they do one thing, they say one thing, and do another.
Back to the hypocrite issue.
Yeah,
Is there anything more?
There's another one about a lot of churches seem to, or religious organisations are run by committees which go on to another committee to talk about money, and it's all about the leaders. You know, there's this hierarchical system, you know, and everybody's reaching after power, and it's a big power struggle.
Okay.
Don't like that.
Okay. This is going to be a lively conversation because we need to face those are critical questions. Before we tackle them, let me just ask you this: we are in a land of clubbing and pubbing, right? Pubbing on Friday nights, clubbing on Saturday nights. How critical in the 21st century? How critical is community for us as human beings? How critical?
It's vital.
Need it.
Vital.
We need people.
We crave it.
No one can survive on their own. We all either go to work, to church, to school, to our job. No one exists on their own.
And yet the case has been made for postmodern and the secular West that we are becoming more and more resorting to individualization. In other words, we're shrinking the circles in which we live, so that I can do it all on the internet. I can do it all, you know, with a microwave and an internet. You can pretty much live alone, right? And that's what's happening.
Yeah, we're in danger of that because of the way that the world is developing in terms of technology. But in terms of what you need personally on a human level, I think that's a whole
Okay, fire at me then. Okay, fire at me where it is you can find community. Give me the places you can find community.
Well, in England, it's the pub.
The pub, okay, we've established
if you don't go
that.
to the pub at lunchtime or after work, well, you
I
don't
love
have a
the
community.
names of the pubs. I don't know where you came up with these, but they're wonderful.
Horse and the bull, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
What's a horse
Okay,
and a bull?
so the pubs, I'll accept that. What else? Where do you go to? Where do we go?
Football
to
clubs.
Football clubs.
Football stadium.
Yeah. Now, when you say football clubs, what are you talking about, Darren?
Well, I mean, you can have your local football club.
Yes.
You go down to Reading.
Okay.
Very good football team.
All right.
And you watch maybe every weekend a good game.
Yeah.
You know, you're coming together with your friends.
All right.
You're supporting the same team.
Okay.
Wearing the same colours.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
Okay. Pubs, clubs. What else? Give me some more community areas where community is
the natural
built.
family. The natural family.
Okay.
setting.
Yeah. Home.
Yeah, home. Mom, dad, kids. You know, that's what people... In fact, it's said that, you know, if children don't have that sense of community, some children can die if they don't have contact.
Yeah.
So
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Anything else, other ways that you build community, you experience community?
Well, workplace, schools.
Workplace?
Yeah.
Eating together.
Yeah, restaurants
Hey, wait a
going
minute.
out.
Who was the one that was into go-karting?
Yes.
Was that you, Darren?
Yes, that is definitely me.
You mean you meet your chaps there?
I meet friends. Sometimes I organise a few guys to get together, go down to Reading again to go go-karting. May I just say I won the trophy the last time. You are first place. I have the trophy in my bedroom.
Formula One champ right here.
Yeah, well, out of 20 at least, anyways.
Okay,
But
so
it's a good time together.
And when you're together, in whatever these activities are, what's happening? Why is community happening? What is it that you want to see happen when you experience community?
Same interest.
Same interest? Okay.
You belong to a group of
Sense of
people.
belonging.
You feel
Yeah, same
accepted.
thing.
You're interacting.
You're accepted.
Yeah, you feel
good.
accepted.
Yeah,
Good.
you're interacting,
You're
you're
interacting,
sharing, you're
okay.
learning.
And you feel secure and
develop.
safe, don't you, in a community that you've
There's a
chosen?
caring,
Yeah.
nurturing thing going on here.
So why does the church get such a bum rap? Why do so many people find it distasteful?
I think a lot of people don't find community in churches. You know, people go along.
They're not
with-
experiencing the similar interests.
Oh, well,
interaction,
maybe they're not. You know, a lot
belonging.
of people that I know, you know, see church as irrelevant. They see church as boring. That doesn't, you know, they go there, some guys up the front droning about something they can't relate to, you know, and maybe the church hasn't adjusted so well to our culture. I don't know.
And I think as well for younger people, they probably find that an issue because some churches predominantly are filled with older people. So they don't seem to have so much of a connection. They feel isolated and it's not, there's nothing going on that probably meets their needs.
And often, you know, the people in churches are not always as maybe welcoming as they could be. You know, I know of people, Craig was just telling me earlier, you know, he got kicked out of a church once for not wearing the right clothes. You know.
People are critical.
Yeah.
You walk in, you feel the eyes of criticism.
And also people who've been part of a church community can withdraw from that because they've had a bad experience. You know, people have been not very nice to them and they think, I'm not going there again. Because the church isn't really like, you know, your go-karting club, is it? I mean, in the sense that there are ideals here and expectations which are far and way above the pub and anywhere else you go.
That's
and so you go in kind of with a different feeling.
And sometimes church tends to hang on to tradition, which is, you know, very, very old indeed, and it's not necessarily relevant to today's society and needs.
Archaic, Queen's English,
conformity,
these and thous. And I'll tell you were telling me you have a friend. Christian, a friend who says she's a Christian, but hey, forget church.
Well, you know, she is a Christian. She has very, I would say, strong Christian values and principles. She just does not feel the need to belong to a church or go to a church on a regular basis. She's a wonderful person, very warm, very friendly. She will do anything for anyone, looks after other people's children and, you know, will cook a meal if someone's moving house and get them all set up. She's a really lovely person. Doesn't go to church.
Just no need, no interest.
Doesn't find anything there for her.
And Darren, you were telling me, somebody came over to you, where you're living.
We're at work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a maintenance guy, also as a pizza delivery. And this guy was getting rid of some cockroaches. Excellent guy, really, really friendly guy, you know. dead-on Christian. Okay, he was a Christian, but he didn't go to church because he felt they were hypocrites. They're like hypocrites. He couldn't feel also like the formalities, you know, there's too many formalities, not enough relaxing and singing praise songs.
Ireland.
Aye, yeah, that's what he used with me. We were talking about, in Ireland, okay, you have the Protestants and the Catholics, as it were, two different religions. But what is it really? It's people underneath using that as an excuse to fight, you know, religion as an excuse.
But that's a good issue, because a lot of people use that analogy of what's happening with the Protestants and the Catholics in Ireland as a reason why they do not want to entertain going to church, because it is so hypocritical. Two religious factions at each other's
and guys, we're not talking about unjust charges, are we?
No.
I mean, somebody didn't make up the Ireland conflict, Northern Ireland and Ireland, the Protestant Catholic. That's there. It's in the news. You can't just say, well, that's not really. It's a huge deal. So people, they're not just spinning their wheels when they come up with these charges. You almost get the feel. You know, you remember growing up as kids, Mom would come and say, this medicine is awful, tastes awful. But she said, listen, boy, swallow it, because it's going to be good for you. And you man, is that the church? It's awful. I hate being there, but it's good for me, so I got to just take it whether it kills me or not. See? I mean, is that what we're going to end up with? Let me read some, I'll tell you from the Heard on the Street comments that you were quoting a moment ago. Here's one. I agree that being a part of a community is essential for us, but who says that it has to be an organized religious community? Now, I've heard people use that line before, and my immediate response is, what would you prefer? Would you prefer disorganized religion? You know, so I'm not too, the organized, it's like it's a, is that the charge? No, that's not the charge, actually. You can get support and friendship and love and help from a variety of community groups, but what is so special about a church? Heard on the Street. In order to give some objective content to our very subjective conversation, let me put some pieces out. Let's put them out on the table again. I want to put 4 lines from this ancient book. Pull your Bible out, please. And let's read these. Those of you watching right now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to that book called Scripture, Holy Scripture, and we're going to examine what it says about church. Now, this is the ideal. And we've had another conversation, by the way, about the relevancy of the Bible in the 21st century. And if you're watching Mind the Gap for the first time, I hope you get into the cycle, because it's a cycle of conversations. But let's put these four ideals, okay? Church is supposed to be. I understand we don't measure up, but let's go with Conchita. Philippians. Read for us, please. Philippians 2. Imagine now, guys, a community where this is the operative ideal and principle.
Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others.
Can you imagine the U.S. Congress and Westminster Parliament if those two great institutions operated with that principle? Consider others better than yourself. Look out for the interests of others first. There aren't a whole lot of communities out there that live by that rule, Conchita, but that is to be the church. A place where people are looking out, not for number one, but for everyone else around them. Let's put that one on the table, right there on the top. Let's go to number 2, and Lonnie, that would be you. Jesus speaking just before the crucifixion the next day, John 13. Verse 34. John 13, 34 and 35.
Here, sorry. A new command I give to you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. I mean, it said 3 times there, as if they didn't get it the first time, you know. That's really, really critical.
It's about loving.
Yeah, they have to love one another.
Now, I know a little bit about football. I know the football we have on our side of the pond and the football you have over here. And I've heard the word hooligan. And I know that there are some communities where you experience community, but it's not a whole lot of loving going on. right?
Slightly embarrassing when we talk about football here, because that element does come up and it doesn't give you that feeling of love and share and care.
But the ideal. Okay, look, has the church failed there? Oh my, can we think of churches that have not loved one another? A dime a dozen, probably. But the ideal is, number one, think of other people's interests before yourself. Number two, love one another. Althea, let's do 1 John 3.
This is how we know what love is. Jesus laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers. If anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions in truth.
Wow, what an ideal. Nobody's going to be hungry in this community. People, the needy are being provided for. Love one another. Lay down your life for one another. That's pretty radical stuff, guys. Pretty radical. But that's the ideal. Now remember, this is the church that Jesus built. Okay? Now let's put one more piece in. Darren, are you the fourth piece? Yes, you are. Matthew 23, please.
23, verse 11.
Please.
The greatest among you will be your servant.
One line. The greatest among you, be the servant. Guys, why can't we live by these? I mean, heard on the street, they're making a fair point. You guys don't live up. You don't practice what you preach. What's the problem with that?
Well, because who wants to be involved with something like that if, you know, someone says, well, yes, we should love one another, and then the next minute in the school playground there...
No, but my question is, why aren't we living it? Now, I'm not worried about what they're saying out there. Why aren't we living it? Because don't you say that you're a part of Christianity?
Yeah, I am. Well, I mean, everybody tries, and everybody really... I think most of us try to work at living up to that ideal. And sometimes we fail. And we have to admit that and hold our hands up and say, yes, we fail. We don't actually do that all of the time. And I could not sit here and say, oh, well, yeah, you know, I'm as really nice as pie to all of you every single time I see you and whatever. But
so we're dealing with basic human nature. We had a conversation, by the way, about human nature, didn't we?
We are.
We're not a community of perfect people.
No.
We're a community of imperfect people. I think that the tragedy is that some of us do think we're perfect. And therefore...
that's probably the key, isn't it? When we purport to be something other than we actually are.
And therefore people feel upset when that doesn't come through.
But we have to remember, this is the ideal. The church has presented, and the scriptures that you presented present the ideal. And it also invites anybody and everybody to accept this ideal. But we don't get there immediately. I mean, in fact, it's like a hospital. The hospital is there to try and cure, but inside that hospital...
So the church is not a museum for perfect people? What is it?
Absolutely.
Hospital for imperfect people.
Imperfect people.
I mean, we had a conversation about human nature, and how many of the human race did we finally conclude is pretty much struggling at the very core of existence? How many?
Pretty much everyone.
Everybody. Pretty much everyone. 6 point whatever billion today.
Even when even if there's a good person, you know, I've just bought the biography of Mother Teresa.
Oh, did you?
On the back, I haven't read it yet. It says, you know, she was not a perfect person, yet the world sees her as that. And I'm going to read it with interest, because there'll be things to show you that actually she was still a human being. She had some very good things about her. But, you know, there are things also...
Well, Princess Diana is a case in point, isn't she? Just the same. She was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And yet, when she died, the whole country was completely consumed with her...
oh, goodness.
Yeah. Well, with this feeling of, how good she was. She went to see a few countries that had landmines, and she was good and kind to children. But this outpouring of grief was just amazing because of this one woman who
So is it that
caused
we
loads
don't
of
see
problems
any
in
of
the
those
royal
good things in
family?
the church, why people have this perception of the church as being somewhere they don't want to be?
I think it's because of the expectation.
Higher expectations for the community of faith than for the general community.
We often...
Is that fair? Is that fair, David? Higher expectations?
Yes, I think so.
In what way? Conchita, what way? Why is it fair?
Because that's what, I mean, if you go to a tennis club, they have their rules. They say you come in with, you know, smart dress or whatever. You expect that, and if you go in with somebody looking scruffy, you think, I'm not going back to a tennis club. What's it about? So if you go to a church and they purport to have these high ideals, as we've just read, this is what they'll be reading. Love one another, think of other better than yourself. And you go in and somebody looks at you and says, oh my gosh, what are you wearing today? Or look at her. Then you think, what's this place about then? This is no better than my tennis club. Let me go back to that. So it is reasonable for them to expect that.
Well, here's another one. Heard on the street. Jesus seemed to live his life accepting people just as they were, but Christian churches these days seem to do the opposite. They seem to want to produce clones, not individuals acceptable. The rules and regulations of individual churches seem to have become more important than the actual principles. Who changed Jesus' principle of acceptance to judgment? Why would I want to join a group of people who teach one thing yet do another? You know what I want to say? I want to, while I still have the floor here.
Not for much longer.
Yeah, boy, I tell you. To you, we're ready to go. But let me just, while I still have this breath left, I want to say to the people watching right now, because there's some who are saying, yeah, right on, that's it. You know what? I stand guilty as charged. I think of the way I have behaved in the church. I think of the people I have snubbed, people who didn't think like me or act like me or look like me, people that I have just said, hey, I don't have time. That you have made, sir, or was this a ma'am? I don't know. But you have made your point well. And I'd like to apologize, really. I would like to apologize for the way the Christian church has treated people on this earth. You know, I don't want to sound like a school marm, but we ought to be ashamed sometimes, right? I mean, we haven't done it right. And we know the bad experiences. In fact, if I went around this circle and said, Conchita, Lonnie, Althea, Darren, Craig, David, give me all the bad experiences you know, we wouldn't have time to get this conversation wrapped up. But I don't want to focus. I don't want to focus on the negative. I know that it's out there, and I am sorry for the way Christians have behaved, and I'm one of them. I want to flip that around, though. Has the church done anything good? Does the community of faith do good things in the 21st century?
Absolutely.
Let's just put a little bit of that up there as well. I mean, I know the backbiting, I know the hypocrisy, I know the judgmental spirit, the better, holier-than-thou attitude. What good comes out of a community of faith?
You just have to look at all the organisations that have come out and made valuable contributions to society, from the Salvation Army to Oxfam. They've all got that church foundation.
Yeah. And by the way, Salvation Army got its start in London.
That's right.
In the inner city of London. William Booth, wasn't that his name?
Correct. Yeah.
William Booth started right over here and raised up this massive global network of compassion and mercy and care. Thanks for that illustration.
The Samaritans, a lot of people use nowadays, you know, if they're upset. Where the place you think about is the Samaritans to go and get help.
Yeah,
it's Christian based, isn't it?
Think of the hospitals. Are there hospitals on earth? Althea, you are a medical person.
And schools and other places where you can get, you know, that sort of help in acute times that churches have been responsible for. And, you know, all across the world, Christian organisations do this kind of work. So there is a lot of good.
And these things speak to the mission of the church. You know, it's a service. You know, these are services that we offer globally.
Any of you as a young adult go overseas or go somewhere away from your home to serve for a year?
Yeah, I think that is one of the central experiences of my life that really...
Where'd you go, Craig?
...solidified my faith. I went to Romania.
Okay. What happened over there? What'd you do there?
Romania has a horrible problem with orphans.
I've heard.
Babies being left on doorsteps and garbage cans. And what we did as a Christian organization is we went over there and we built an orphanage. We upgraded their orphanage. We gave the workers in the orphanage some relief time, took care of the babies. And there's something to be said for... you know, holding a baby and looking at a baby who has been left in a garbage can and abandoned by a drug addict mother. I mean, it's just an experience that fills you right up to the rim.
Wow. One of these questions suggested, Althea, that you read a moment ago, heard on the street, Jesus just came to teach us love and acceptance. He did not organize a church. And I need to challenge that question because it really is based on a misunderstanding and actually no understanding of, in fact, what Christ did. He did raise up a church. Lonnie, I wish you'd read a line
Matthew chapter
from Scripture.
28, verses 19 and 20. It's the very last words that Jesus said. In fact, it's the very last two verses of the entire book. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age.
So this community of faith was organized for service. I mean, it's not a place where you just sit back in this cool cathedral and engage in some sort of spiritual introspection. As important as introspection is, know thyself, that came from William Shakespeare. But spiritual navel-gazing eventually becomes a vicious circle and just takes us out of society. Here Jesus is saying, go into all of society, go into the whole world on my behalf. Dave, another fascinating line of his, let's put that on the table as well. The Gospel of St. John, chapter 14, the night before he dies. Notice that statement. That's verse 12, I believe.
Verse 12 it says, I tell you the truth, anyone who has faith in me will do what I have been doing. He will do even greater things than these because I'm going to the Father.
So all this healing and teaching, making a difference, connecting with the human race, I want you to do even more. I didn't get a hospital started. I couldn't, but I want you to do even more. Organize for service. Do you have your Bibles? I want you all to look this one up. And those of you who are watching on television right now, I want to go to a passage, St. Paul, the great, probably the greatest Christian who ever lived. Paul wrote this. It's a rather creative metaphor for the community of faith. And so let me read this. This would be 1 Corinthians in the New Testament. There were Christians that were in the city of Corinth, Athens, and the Greek Olympics, of course, have put Greece once again on the world's radar screen. So it's the same country. This is to a group of Christians now forming a community of faith, church, if you want to call it church, in Corinth. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Let me pick it up, drop down to verse 12. And here's the parable. The body, speaking of the human body, is a unit. Though it is made up of many parts, and though all its parts are many, they form one body. So it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit into one body, whether you are Jew or Greek, we would say, whether you are from the east or the west, the north or the south, whether you are slave or free. Thankfully, we don't live with those categories as much, although there are countries of earth that still do. We were all given the Spirit to drink. Okay, one body. Now, here it comes, verse 14. Now, the body is not made up of one part. Have you ever seen a body that is only a nose? I've seen some noses, by the way, that stand out as if that were the only feature. But that's not the point. Have you ever seen a body that's only a nose? No, 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 no. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be part of the body, would it? The foot could say, I'm really tired of being down here in the dirt. But if the hand says, I'm up here in the sky, I don't need you, foot, adios, what happens to the hand? If the foot's gone, where does the hand go? You'd be walking on your hands and doing what you weren't ever designed to do. In other words, we need the parts. That's his point. Now, verse 16, and if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, poor me, I don't have the gift of the eye, I do not belong to the body. Wait a minute. No, 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 no. If the whole body were an eye, verse 17, where would the sense of hearing be? Now, verse 19, if they were all one part, where would the body be? Drop down now to verse 25. So there should be no division in the body. Now, you know where he's going with this, don't you? It's talking about the community of faith. There should be no division in the community of faith, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. Final line, if one part suffers, every part suffers with it. Hey, by the way, have you ever stubbed your toe? Your little toe. Your little toe. Do you call it the pinky? You don't call it the pinky over here.
No, but we have had that expression.
Have you? Well, you stub your little toe. Does the whole body go on alert? Just a little tiny guy down there. But when he's suffering, do you suffer up here?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, mercy, yes you do. When one part suffers, every part suffers. And I like this. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. What's the point? Every member of a community called church, community of faith, brings a giftedness to it. And this clubbing, pubbing idea, well, I belong to a club, I belong to a pub, that's fine. But, you know, joining, one of your questions, Althea said, I want to join a dance club. But I can get all I need out of a dance club. The football club. The problem with all those communities is I go to get. I'm going to get. I get something out of it. But as I'm looking at this ideal, I realize it's an ideal. The community of faith belongs together in order to give. What's the difference? Getting versus giving. What's the philosophical difference?
Well, if you feel better if you, well, I don't know. My personal experience is that if I'm giving, I feel so much better. Just about myself. And it's not a conscious thing, but I know that if I'm giving of my time, not necessarily of anything else in a tangible way, then I feel so much better.
You think Mother Teresa slept pretty well at night?
I'm sure she did.
Yeah. But I think you're also developing yourself in a holistic way. If you're part of a particular club, not to denigrate go-karting, but just to use it as an example, you might be developing parts of your muscular body. But I don't think it's a very... emotionally, it might do a lot for your relationships, but actually when you're part of a church community and you're giving, whatever your skill is, you are developing yourself intellectually, you're developing yourself emotionally, and also your skills, your people skills.
Have you ever watched television alone in your home? Oh, you're watching football, Darren, but alone at home. I mean, it's a great experience. Yeah, I watch sports at home. But then you go down to the pub and you got a screaming house full. You know, that's no comparison, right?
That's a laugh to go to the pub.
And then you go to the stadium where there are thousands.
Oh, yeah.
What happens to you when you're around the masses in community like that? What happens to you?
You become energized and you...
get this feeling of belonging. You're singing the songs.
You're a part of the event. You're actually a part of the event.
Could it be that that's what's happening when the community of faith comes together every weekend? It comes together.
Absolutely.
Because I've been alone watching TV all week, so to speak. Me and my friendship with God. But what happens to you when you get together with others who share that?
It changes lives. Yeah. You see the positive effect that it has.
What about your life? What about your life? What does it do to you, Dave?
Well, for me personally, when I go to church and I'm actually there involved with the programs that we have.
And other people around you.
It makes me more enthusiastic. It makes me more positive about my life. It actually gives me the strength to know that I'm not alone in this conviction that I have and that I can communicate what I do have with Christ with positiveness
and
all the time.
It can make the Bible so much more real because, sometimes you read it and like you said, you can dust off the pages of this ancient document, But when you talk to the person sitting next to you and they say, this is what God did for me this week, then it's suddenly practical and it's real. And you can't argue with people's personal experiences.
I haven't really been a serious Christian for very long. I've been a Christian all my life because my parents are Christians and all this, but only in the last couple of years have I taken my Christianity seriously, and it's about going and taking part. It's about going and taking part of a community of support. It's about getting that thing that I was pubbing, clubbing, whatever. I've tried it, but it's about going to a place where people are concerned genuinely for your well-being as well as theirs. But they're concerned about you when you walk in that door. How was your week? Is everything going well?
You are getting something out of it. You're not only giving by being there to help others, but something's coming back into you.
But not just the church service itself. What's probably even more important is what happens outside of that in terms of relationships.
Meaning?
Well, for example, when I first came to London, I didn't know anybody in London, and I had a child who was 3 and one who was 1, and the house was gutted. There were hardly any floorboards, and I had somebody there looking after the children. I thought, how are they going to manage all day like this? Somebody said to me, oh, there's a church sister down the road who has a nursery. Went down there and said to her, she'd never seen me before, I wonder if my children could come here just in the day. And I was thinking about the money and thinking it's going to cost me so much to pay for 2 children and also pay the childminders I already had.
And the church made a difference.
And she said to me, well, listen, just bring the children and the childminder, I won't charge you. And that just showed to me the text that you read that said, thinking of others more than yourself. She could have seen that as a good opportunity of a few more pence, but she didn't. She just gave it to me because she said, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, let's just enjoy it together.
Fact of the matter is, we live in a world, we live in a society that is utterly fragmented. Come on, guys, we can talk about all the communities till we're blue in the face, but people still go home at night. Go home lonely, go home with a sense of disconnectedness. Do you long for a sense of community? Maybe you're like that Japanese man. Can you imagine a life where nobody cares, nobody misses me? You don't have to live that life anymore. There is a community near you that could be the very place where you could sense the belonging. with people who will share the very same journey. I'm going to put some numbers on the screen right now. There's an email address, there's a website, there's a telephone number. If you'd like to experiment, no commitments, no strings attached, but just experiment with what it would be like to sit in a community like this for a moment, I wish you'd call that number. There has to be a community near you. The point is, you don't have to journey alone. There are a whole lot of us who wish to share that journey. And the good news is, it isn't about us, but it's about someone who says, "Lo, I am with you always, to the very end of the age." I'd like you to contemplate that, his offer for community. And let's roll some music, and let's all just kind of kick back and think what it means to be called to his community.
Though you're blinded by tears and consumed by your fears, and your daytime has turned to night, you may be unaware, but there's someone who cares, and he's leading you to the There are times when you feel that you're all by yourself, like an island out on the sea. But that's the enemy's way of making you doubt, 'cause God promised you'll never leave. You'll never leave, never alone. Darkest hour, you're not alone. No, you're never alone. Oh, don't run and stand tall, knowing that he'll never leave you, and he won't let you go. Don't be discouraged, he's by your side. Under his wings, you can abide. Don't give up, and don't give in. With Jesus Christ, you're going to win. You're not alone. Word that he promised never to leave me.
When I think about friendship and fellowship, it's sort of something exciting that comes into my mind, because it's about meeting friends, getting together with family, and we all have some need in us that we want to be with people, we want to talk with them, we want to share dreams, we want to share hopes. And when you're alone, you really have an empty feeling. And that is why it's important to get together with friends and meet with them.
Thank you.
Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?
It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners.
How is it that we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?
How can the guests of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? Time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them, and they will fast.
We all have a yearning desire to have someone with us. If it's a companion or it's a friend, a brother or sister, you're always excited to share something new in your life. And sometimes even if you're feeling sad, you get excited because you think, well, this is something that I can share with someone. You know, and this person can actually help me through this experience. And when you have really wonderful things happening in your life, you just want to share it with the world. And that's what I think about when I think about friendship, getting together, and just having fun with friends and family.
Today, you did it your way. Or do you see the paradise? Something better than life, life in Garden of Eden. God gave way to you to show you the truth you needed to see. Now you see the light. This is the time when the meek shall inherit the earth. His story of mankind, this story's about the fall. We go around like the moon, hiding half of the truth. Over and over, we repeat this tragic play. Countless actors has fallen to the sound. In the desert of lies, in the desert of lies, in the desert of lies. I'm gazing at the moon to witness the fall. What happens in dark? I know this feels like hell, but I'm free at last. I miss my home. The story of mankind, this story's about the fall. We go around like moon, hiding half of the truth. Over and over, we repeat this tragic play. Countless actors has fallen to the sand in the desert of lies. Oh, story of mankind, this story's about the fall. We go around like the moon, hiding half of the truth. Over and over, we repeat this tragic play. Countless actors have fallen to the sand in the desert of lies, in the desert of lies.
Once again, I want to invite you to make a personal decision about bridging this gap. It's the gap of community. We all have a heart that's shaped with a desire to belong. As you contemplate that, maybe there's somebody beside you right now with whom you could carry on a conversation. This business of community, don't keep it your own. Begin to share the conversation. We're going to do the same right now. And don't forget, join us again as we seek to mind the gap and build the bridges.